but please, could you stand up? I promise you it's light-hearted. So what I would like you to do is put your hands out, and your most dominant hand, the one that you write with, just flick it over onto your palm. You can close your eyes if you want to, but I'm happy for you to have them open. And I just want you to imagine that on your palm is the most heaviest encyclopedia. It's heavy. It's heavy. And just naturally allow your hand, wherever it wants to go, to drop down as the book gets heavier. On your other hand, imagine that I've tied some helium balloons. And they are lifting your arm to be lighter and lighter and lighter. As the book's getting heavier and heavier and heavier. If you open your eyes, and what you should notice is hopefully a huge gap between where your hands are, and what most of us spend a lot of time focusing on when we're at work, which is the hand that's the heaviest. Doing the things that you wonder, does it add value to your life? Does it add value to launching a brand? And that's what we're going to find out. Whereas the hand that's lighter is the one that's trying to move ahead of you, but that's the one that we pay least attention to. Does that make sense? Thank you for participating. Take a seat. So exactly that. What we're going to cover off today is how do we get back to being on our lighter hand and working in a lighter way to move faster to launching brands or a product. And really it starts off with understanding three things. Making sure that we put the real consumer target, the shopper, whatever you want to call them, at the heart of everything that you do. And what that actually means is starting off with knowing what do they want, why do they want it, and have I got a product or a brand that actually fits their needs. Prioritizing so that you do a few things and you do them really well. So that hand that was weighting down is often the one that distracts us with a list of things to do, the emails, the responding to the customer, and we forget to do the few things well, which are probably the one on the other hand, that are the ones that are the most urgent, are probably the easier ones to do, but we put them off believing they get heavier on the other hand. And finally, planning ahead. So this flawless execution. We almost forget to do it because we're so engrossed with just dealing with the here and now, we forget to plan ahead and execute in style. So that's what we're covering off. The world has got really busy. And I think of two words that really come at me. One is infobesity, where we are now living in a time where there is so much information to decipher. Who's my real consumer? What's their real needs today? And digital, and you're probably thinking, what's that? Where we've moved from being in a physical store to try and sell things online, and actually as consumers or as shoppers, we're totally confused. Where am I supposed to be buying my product? And our expectations now, whether it's a brand or a product, have become a lot more higher. Why have they become higher? Because my needs are changing. You know, from what your needs were 20 years ago are probably not the same needs now. And the current generation of X and Y have a completely different outlook to what we think they need. And ultimately, that comes back down to understanding the relationship that we have with products, with services, and what's our ideal requirement for them. What once was probably thought of as, okay, everybody's meal occasion at the same time, same need, it's about fuel or energy, has now turned into something more around sharing and lifestyle, and that's changing, again, the way we're moving forward probably for the next 5 to 10 years. So there's a real different mindset going on. So as I say, there's a seesaw effect of going, what's right for me to have? So think of, I want to be healthier, I want to be happier. And on the other side, you're saying, well, I want it to be convenient and I want it to be easy. And this is mixed up with our unstructured lives that are going on around us. You know, people are now eating at different times of the day, sometimes on their own. And we've just become so immersed in what we're doing that we forget to look at the important stuff. What's it really all about? And whilst we think, well, all these outlets are helping us, is it helping us? Or is it just complicating the world of retail landscape, food and drink, and the fragmentation of it all? Because ultimately the consumer says, I just want to eat something, but I just want a healthy lifestyle out of it, or I just want to eat for true indulgence. So what can we do to help them? And whilst many of us rush to get our product out there, you know, this is quite common. Most products that are launched, we know it takes over 3 years for them to become profitable. For any branded company as well as any private label company. Yet our expectations have become so high that if the product's not working in the first 12 weeks, retailers are coming to us and say, delist it, it's not working. But the amount of time and money and energy that goes into these products to launch them is immense. And it's all forgotten because those last 5 yards at the fixture are never thought about, of going, who am I really targeting? What's the point of this product? And that's why you get more people kind of launching things, and they'll just go with the approach of, will it stick or will it not stick? And the question that I often would say to researchers, or I ask myself in research groups, is, would you buy it? If you are the consumer, would you buy it? You already know before you've even started to venture into research or R&D or anything else, is ultimately the best ideas are the ones where, if it's right for you, believe it or not, be right for your customers. If you're only doing it from a mindset perspective of going, it's commercially viable, it's this, that will never stick, because ultimately it's not done with passion, it's not done with true meaning, and it's not meeting a need for a consumer. So what does that look like? Well, it's ultimately going back down to the drivers of consumption and really working within to start, whether it's development and activation, completely focused on what do I want for this product to deliver? What are the real needs and benefits? And this is not just about what goes on in the home, but on the journey to work. It's at any touch point where food and drink is concerned, because that's what's growing our market at the moment. If we think of what's growing, it's premiumization, it's health, it's single serve, it's on the go, and these trends are going to continue as we move forward. So ultimately, the closer we get to creating a relationship with the consumer and the shopper, and remember, they're two different people. The shopper is the one that buys, the consumer is the one that consumes. And if you take the example of mum buying for a child, that's a clear example of mum is the shopper, but child is the consumer. So again, it's going back to who's eating this and what are they using this product for? And the more we get closer to that understanding, that's the clarity that you need to know whether your product or brand is going to succeed for the future. And it's been quite well documented. The more needs you give me, the more I'm prepared to pay for it. And that's why we see the rise in health and premiumization, because all of a sudden you've bundled it up to me as a manufacturer or a supplier to offer me more needs. And if I can see more needs for me, why wouldn't I give you more money for it? Why wouldn't I pay more for the convenience, the more for health, the more for indulgence, whatever you want to call it? If you're making my life easy, then I'm prepared to give you more money for it. Now, traditional category marketing dictates that there's 3 ways to grow a category. Effectively, more people buying more often and spending more money. To give you an example, we're looking at it now from an occasion-based lens. So whether it's morning, lunch, mid-afternoon or evening, how do you begin to expand the category? And that's where brands and products have had the most impact. And we can start to see that, say, evening meals that once were a family occasion, say 20 years ago or 25 years ago, there's now 62 million single-serve occasions just in the last 2 years that have opened up from people eating on their own. And that just shows you how big the market is becoming and where this growth is coming from. And then added with that is this value equation of going, if I'm doing it more often and I'm prepared to spend that money, the categories are naturally growing. Right now, there's only 7 brands out of the top 50 in the UK that are actually adding any value growth to the market. That's quite shocking, because you think big brands should be able to drive growth, but it just shows you how competitive it is getting and how good the quality of private label is also improving. That people will say, if I can have the same quality product and I'm prepared to pay the same amount or a little bit differential of less, why wouldn't I buy it? Why wouldn't I go to an Aldi or a Lidl if the product quality is just as good? So how do we understand when a right product is ready for market? And I use a segmentation process, the one that I tend to use, which is ease versus speed. How quickly can you launch a product if it's correctly targeted to the right consumer with the right benefits, with the right needs, versus how easy is it to do this from a capability point of view. Those are the kind of mapping exercises that I help clients work through quickly to understand, right, that's going to have high engagement in the marketplace, and this is the complexity that goes with it. And the easier it is and the faster it is, those are the brands and products that have made it and will go on to be sustainable in the marketplace. But it's not just about testing it on paper, it's about how do you land it in a store, in an environment. And creating great relations starts with not just your consumer and shopper, but also your retailers, to actually partner with someone, do the research with them, and find out, actually, does my product, is it really going to work? Is it really going to last more than a year on the shelf? And that's when you begin to have some credibility of going, I've brought something to the market, there is a real need that I'm fulfilling, and guess what? I know it's going to last longer than 3 years, so I am prepared for it to be non-profitable in those first few years. Ultimately, though, it's all about your mindset and how we're determining whether a product stays or not. And the role, so that it starts off by identifying who's my consumer, what's their real needs. And I go back to it again, we are that consumer first and foremost. If we're not prepared to buy our own products, why would I sell it to somebody else? Why would somebody else buy from us? Consumer research is only there to help you support that theory or that myth that you have of going, here's a product I'm about to launch. I know it's worthwhile. I just need 5 other people in the room, please, to verify me. That 5 becomes 50, that becomes 500, etc., etc. That's the point of consumer research. A lot of companies will go out to prove the other way of going, I have a product, I need to fit it into a mold. And that's when retailers and consumers have become a lot more savvy of going, no, it doesn't meet my needs. And ultimately, living the brand, I think that is so, so true. If you know that you've got a brand that is, or a product that is there for the future, you have to be singing its praises from day one. Because if you don't believe in it, nobody else is going to believe in it. And trust me, I've worked for many branded companies that have gone, here's a product, please help us launched it, and then it doesn't survive. It's because nobody had any belief in it in the first place. So it's so important that that product, that belief in that real genuinity of what its needs are, is being brought to life. And of course, the easier job is then beginning to start to measure it and understanding, why is my consumer now buying this, and how can I get them to buy more of it? But ultimately, while some of us are kind of aware of what we're doing and why we're doing it, some of us, as I say, get stuck in that hand of the day-to-day that's getting heavier, and we forget to look up and go, what's the easiest route to get there? And sometimes the answers are within our network. We're just not able to or open enough to ask other people for help. So that's one of my key things I would say to you is always step back and allow other people in on your journey to enable you to ask, how do I do it quicker? How do I do it faster? How do I do it better? And we may not need to know all the answers, but it's other people that can bring forward those answers. Just to help you bring it to life, here's an example of that consumer strategy that I've talked about coming into effect. So we started off, this is an example that I worked with on M&S, which was their own label chilled pizza that was launched back in 2015 as a relaunch. They were number 8 in the category. Their top tier pizza hardly had a share. You're talking probably less than 5%. Today, it's the number 1 in top tier pizza on chilled pizza, and it has a share for over 20%. The results were phenomenal when we launched it, and it all started with having the vision, having the right understanding of what this product was going to be used for, and that really came out of understanding those occasions that I talked about of when is the product going to be consumed, why is it going to be consumed, and of course, importantly, at fixture, how do you get me there? And this is where I come back to that channeling and understanding ahead of how am I going to attract my consumer. This bit here and this bit here only becomes easier if you know that you've understood your product and who's it for and the benefits it's offering. After that, the results, they kind of spoke for themselves, really. We had the massive impact. And you wouldn't naturally associate M&S and chilled pizza. Come on, how many of you would rather order a Domino's? But this product has been just phenomenal, and its launch has gone on to do great things to enable them to now be number 3, as I say, in total pizza and number 1 for top tier. And again, why were they able to do that? because we started off by putting shopper at the heart of what they were doing, what we wanted to achieve, which was to sell a top-tier pizza to their consumers that they knew would be buying it. They prioritised things that needed to be done, and ultimately we planned ahead. Now, some products can be planned ahead 12 months, some can be planned ahead 18 months, but it only works when you've done the key work up front, which is understanding your consumer. I hope that's been very helpful to you. Thank you very much.